Hey guys, Richard here with Richard C. Howard and Associates and the Government Sales Momentum Podcast. So, whether you're listening to this on the podcast or watching a video on YouTube or our website, thanks for tuning in. Today, we're going to take a little bit of a different turn, and I'm just going to comment on an article I just read, which basically was talking about the government's purchasing strategies and specifically should the government be going after the best value for goods and services? Should they be buying the best product? Or should they be promoting social objectives? Now, really, the article is just saying, hey, should they get the best deal or should they promote social objectives? And what they were really addressing is the rise in small business set asides and set asides for particular subgroups like woman-owned small business, service disabled veteran-owned small business, 8A, Hub Zone, etc. Now, the article was making the case that when the government does set aside their purchasing for the small businesses and those subcategories, that the price goes up and that they're not getting the best bang for the buck, I guess you could say, when it comes to federal spending. Now, I have a little bit of a different take, having been on the other side of this, on the government side, not only as the procurer, but as the military guy using some of the equipment and the services that the government was buying. And I can tell you, my take is I don't necessarily want the government to get the best deal, because the best deal, the cheapest, meaning the cheapest deal, almost always equals not great equipment, not great services. And sometimes promoting social objectives actually makes sense, right? So, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to pay more because you have set something aside for small business. In fact, what I've seen is that a lot of times the larger companies can force the little guy out if they don't have those set asides, if they don't have any requirements. So for me, as a user of some of the, whether I'm flying or I'm on the ground with a piece of technology, I want the best technology that money can buy that's going to help us execute the mission, right? So at the end of the day, if you have soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen, and lives are on the line, you don't want the government to get the cheapest radios that they're using to call in airstrikes or to get some support if they're in trouble. You want something that's actually going to work. And if the government has to pay a couple extra dollars for that, then they should be. As a taxpayer, that's what I want them to do. I don't want the cheapest. And even with labor. So a lot of times you may have heard the term lowest price technically acceptable, and you'll see the government putting these type of contracts out there, and a lot of companies hear that and they already, the hair on the back of their neck stands up. From the government side, what we would see sometimes is you get lowest price technically acceptable, and you see a new contract company come in, and the employees, the people, a lot of the civilians, not the government civilians, but the contracted civilians that are out there doing a lot of the work, you still want the best people. And if you're trying to pay them the minimum, you're not going to get the best people. And that affects the way the government does business, and it affects the way that we conduct our military missions and our government missions nationwide. So, really, I just wanted to bring that up. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you want to send us a comment, whether to our email address attached to the podcast or go to our website, richardchoward.com. What do you think? Should the government be just getting the best value, the best bang for the buck? Should we be looking at the best product? Should we be trying to buy the best product no matter what the cost? And how do you feel about promoting social objectives through government purchasing? Do you think that it's right that we are actually trying to promote different social causes by purchasing from specific groups of people versus just focusing on the technology and or the product or service? And again, for me, I think the answer to that is it depends. For a lot of products and services, you can segment that into a group that is disenfranchised, something especially like IT services, right? Where you have a lot of different companies competing in that trade space. There's no reason why you can't set it aside for a woman-owned small business, minority-owned business, service disabled veteran-owned small business. You're going to get plenty of great A players that could compete for something like that and provide a valuable commodity at a decent price. So those are my thoughts. I'd love to hear yours. This was just a short one today, but thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.